Okay, so you like whiskey, you enjoy a glass, but then somebody starts talking about its phenolic core, and you're just lost, right? Well, this one's for you. We're gonna cut through all that snobby jargon and get right to what makes whiskey, good. Let's get into it.
Yeah, you've heard this before, haven't you? This is the kind of stuff that makes you feel like you're doing it wrong. It's like, am I supposed to be tasting a shipwreck right now? It sounds less like a drink review and more like a creative writing assignment. And honestly, it can make you feel like your own opinion doesn't even count.
Okay, but here's the secret, the absolute truth. If you're the one on the right, thinking, smoke, sea air, and is that a Band-Aid? You are not wrong. In fact, you are so right, especially if you're drinking one of those super smoky scotches from Islay. Your notes? They're the real deal. So let's run with that.
All right, Section 1, whiskey without the snobbery. So, first things first, let's just strip it all back. What is this stuff really? Forget the fancy bottles, forget the price tags for a second. What are we actually drinking? At its core, it's this simple. You take some grain, you ferment it into something that's basically beer, then you distill that beer to make it stronger, and you stick it in a barrel to age. That's it. Seriously, the whole wild world of whiskey, it just comes from playing with those three things: the grain, the barrel, and time. Okay, let's tackle the two big ones, bourbon versus Scotch. This is where a lot of people get tangled up in the rules. But let's forget the nitty-gritty for a minute and talk about the vibe. What's the personality of each one?
I love this quote because it just nails it. Think about it. Bourbon has to be made from mostly corn, which is sweet, and it has to be aged in brand new charred oak barrels. So what do you get? You get those sweet vanilla caramel notes from the corn. That's your bakery. And you get those toasty, spicy, woody notes from that fresh barrel. That's your wood shop. It's just a perfect description.
And then you've got this. If bourbon is a warm bakery, then a smoky Islay Scotch is the death metal of whiskey. And that's not an insult. It's intense, it's loud, it's definitely not for everybody. But if you're into it, if you get that smoky, medicinal thing, there's just nothing else like it. It's a whole experience.
So here's how those vibes are born. It comes down to a few key rules. For bourbon, it's over half corn, and it must be in a new charred oak barrel. That's where you get that big, sweet, woody punch. Now for Scotch, we're talking single malt here, it's got to be 100% malted barley. And the barrel? It's usually a used one. Maybe it held bourbon before, maybe it held sherry, and that is a game changer because it adds all these other layers of flavor like fruit or spice from whatever was in there before.
All right, Section 3. Let's really dig into the magic here. The peat and the barrels. These are two of the biggest flavor makers in the whole game, especially for the kind of stuff you're into.
So what even is peat? Well, before it's a flavor, it's basically old, compressed, swampy stuff. Seriously. It's decomposed plants and moss that have been squished underground for thousands of years. And in Scotland, especially on the islands, it was just the easiest fuel to get your hands on. They weren't trying to invent a flavor, they were just trying to dry their barley.
So how does that earthy, smoky flavor actually get into the glass? It's pretty cool, actually. They get the barley wet so it starts to sprout. To stop it from growing, they have to dry it out. And how do they do that? They light a fire with that peat. The smoke from that fire, which is full of these compounds called phenols, just sticks to the barley, and that smoky flavor holds on for the entire ride through mashing, fermenting, distilling, all of it.
And this list right here, this is why your Band-Aid note was so dead on. That iodine antiseptic thing, that's a classic peat flavor. It's not just one note smoke. It can be a campfire, sure, but it can also be tar or seaweed or smoked meats. It's this whole family of intense, savory flavors.
Okay, let's switch gears to the other magical element, the barrel. And you got to get this next part because it's maybe the single most important rule in whiskey. The barrel is not just a tank to hold the liquid. It's an active ingredient. The whiskey is pulling flavor out of that wood the entire time it's in there. An American oak barrel, for example, is going to give you lots of vanilla. A European oak barrel, you're looking at more spicy, dried fruit notes. The wood is everything.
And that brings us to the biggest myth in all of whiskey, that older is always better. No way, it's just not true. Think of it like cooking a steak. You can undercook it, sure, but you can definitely overcook it. Too much time in the barrel, and the whiskey just tastes like bitter, wet wood. It gets completely overpowered. The real goal isn't age, it's balance.
Okay, part 4, how to taste anything. So we know what whiskey is, we know where the flavors come from. Now, how do you actually find them in the glass without feeling like an idiot? Let's get a simple, no-nonsense game plan.
Here's the whole philosophy in one sentence. Your approach should be to taste like a scientist, but talk like a human. What does that mean? It means you pay attention, you're methodical, but when you go to describe it, use words that are real, words you and I actually use. No shipwrecks, no leather-bound books, unless it literally tastes like that to you. So here it is, a super simple 4-step method. First, nose it gently. Mouth a little bit open, short little sniffs. Don't stick your whole nose in there, you'll just get alcohol burn. Second, and this is so important, take a tiny little calibration sip, just enough to coat your tongue. It basically tells your palate, hey, high-proof alcohol's coming, get ready. Then you take a real flavor sip. That's when you can actually taste things. And finally, don't be afraid to add a few drops of water. It's not cheating, it can lower the burn and just open up a whole new world of aromas.
And when you're searching for those flavors, use your real-world anchors. Forget the fancy words. Does it remind you of campfire smoke, vanilla, the cinnamon in your kitchen, green apples, raisins, that Band-Aid smell? Yes, use that! Those are your touchstones. They are 100% valid, and they're how you build confidence.
All right, last section, your flavor compass. Now you've got the tools. You know what you're looking for and how to look for it. So, what's next? Where do you go from here? Let's lay out a quick map so you can explore with purpose.
This is a super simplified map of Scotch regions. You already know you like the Islay vibe. That's the heavy peat, the coastal, medicinal stuff. Awesome. But say you want to try the total opposite. Go to Speyside. That's where you'll find fruity, honeyed, easy-drinking whiskeys. The Highlands are all over the place, a huge range. And if you want something that's still kind of coastal and weird, but not necessarily smoky, check out Campbelltown. It's got this funky, oily thing going on that's amazing.
Which, of course, leads us to the big one, the question everyone asks. After all this, what's the best whiskey in the world?
And the answer is the one that makes you do that. The one that makes you take a second sip and just go, yeah, that's it. That's the only thing that matters. The best whiskey on earth is the one you actually want to drink again, whether it tastes like vanilla or apples or, yeah, a Band-Aid. Your taste is the only one that counts. So trust it, have fun exploring, and go find your good weird stuff.